So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. 3 iPhones to skip right now. Now, some of these here are still for sale. Some of them are not. Well, one of them is not. And we'll begin with the very first one, which is the Apple iPhone XR. Now, why do I say skip this phone? A lot of people probably already passed this, but some still look for yesteryear devices, yesteryear iPhones. Skip the XR for a few reasons right now. Number one, the display on this phone is just not very good here in 2022. Now, yes, it gets brighter than a lot of their phones at 650 nits. However, it's LCD, it's not super sharp, and some people have said that they can't really tell the difference. But the truth is that majority of phones, even Samsung's cheaper A line, has OLED displays, which are much more vibrant and a beautiful panel. You can even get 120 hertz, 90 hertz displays on phones cheaper than the iPhone XR. So I would say for that reason alone, it is something I would not consider. The next one is pretty bad reception. So I find the iPhone XR to not be the greatest in the world when it comes to reception. Not only is it a 4G LTE phone, but this phone never really impressed me too much with its reception strength. I would actually have trouble browsing the internet sometimes on this phone on the go just due to having low bars on its signal strength. So this is when they were using Intel modems in here. Since going to the Qualcomm stuff in the iPhone 12, we definitely find this one not to be really good here these days. The next one is this phone has, a pretty low resale value at this point. So if you are planning to buy this device, you're not going to be able to sell it off for much if you plan to get rid of it. Other than that, it still runs iOS. It's still pretty smooth. It's still a big display, pretty good camera. But it's just something I would skip right now. There's just too many better options on the market right now to recommend you buy a yesteryear XR, even though it was a very successful device at the time, no longer recommended from me. Now, the next one is going to be the iPhone SE, the one that just came out, the SE3. I actually would skip this phone unless you just absolutely have to have an iPhone and your price range is around this, and you just can't do Android, even though Android phones in this price range will give you more cameras, bigger displays. A lot of people, praise this as, oh, this is the fastest phone you're going to get, but that's what it is, the fastest phone you're going to get for this price. But it's still a skip for me because it's pretty weak overall. We have a older style display. It looks like an iPhone 8, looks like an iPhone 7. And while this is subjective, as in, I'm not a big fan of it, the fact of the matter is that you're paying a big dollar for something that's been around for years. You can even get yourself an iPhone 8 or even an SE 2020 for cheaper and have basically the same experience. Yes, the camera is improved here for the iPhone SE3, but the battery life is not overly strong. It doesn't make it very far. And while this phone, I think, performs amazingly well, I love the A15 in here, it's just hard to recommend this phone. There's just too many good options on the market, and this is a skip for me. There's other iPhones you can go with for just a little bit more, even the iPhone 11 for just a little bit more, and get yourself a bigger display, dual camera setup. Not the A15, but still, I would just pass on that SE. I think Apple's really going to change it up with the next SE, so it's just not a big deal for me. I mean, I think the best purchase for this is like for kids or somebody who's, going to use it for a company phone and just spread it out throughout their employees, or even, for people using their first iPhone or really don't use many iPhones before. But for the person who's in the tech who wants a newer iPhone, that one's a skip for me. And the last one, I really debated, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one right here, but there's a specific reason I'm going to say skip the iPhone 12 right now. I did say you should buy it earlier in the year in the should you buy, and I'm not trying to contradict that opinion. That opinion was valid at that time, but now that we're getting closer to September, the real reason why I say skip the iPhone 12 right now is because Apple's still selling it at a pretty high $600 or so dollars with taxes. I think it comes around over $7 the last time I picked one up. And this phone is going to slot down in just a few months in September to become even cheaper because the iPhone 13 is going to come down. So like you can just wait to get the iPhone 13, you know, later this year a little bit cheaper or on the same price as you can get this now. So if you just have a little bit of patience, the iPhone 12 will become even cheaper. So it's a skip right now, but it's not always going to be a skip. But there's some things I don't really prefer about the iPhone 12 either that the iPhone 13 improved on. And that first one is going to be the battery life. The battery life for the iPhone 12 never really impressed me too much. It's definitely a phone that, you know, you're going to make it through a day with medium use, but you're going to be charging it maybe in the middle of the day, maybe 7, 8 o'clock at night, depending on your shift. If you start early in the day, you start your work early in the day, whatever, you might be charging this 4 or 5 o'clock if you're using it heavy. Depends. It's just not an amazing battery life phone. It's nice that it has 5G performance on here, but I do find the design to be gorgeous as well. You do have a beautiful overall squared body. The notch looking a little bit dated because now they even shrunk it on the iPhone 13, but it's not a big deal. Overall, the dimmer screen is another thing. All the newer iPhone 13s have upped the display brightness to 800 standard. 800 nit standard. This is 650, so this still reminds me of the older iPhones. Even the SE hits a similar brightness. I like that it's OLED though, and I love the thin bezels. This phone is just a skip currently. I think it can be recommended again once the price comes down, but right now as it stands, I think the price is a little too high for the iPhone 12, considering that the 13 will come down, and also the fact that we have things like the Galaxy S22 out right now at a similar price with newer specifications. It's a tough recommend on this one right now just because the 13 is so similar. However, we'll have to update the iPhone 12 to see how it stands in September when the 14s come, where the price goes. Does Apple drop that? That's going to be a wild card phone. We'll see if Apple drops it out of the lineup. I don't think they will. I think they're going to keep the 12 around and get rid of the iPhone 11. And you might be wondering, well, why is the iPhone 11 not here? Well, that's because I think the iPhone 11 is at a pretty good price right now, giving you a pretty good value. Not new, but if you find the 11 cheap, it has a dual camera. It's pretty similar to the 12. It's got a good processor. It's better than the 10R. So it just didn't make it here. It's been a really popular phone. And that's going to be it for me right now. These are the 3 iPhones I would skip currently. The iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 12 Pro Max, those phones are also kind of tricky because if you look for them used, they are really high price points. So I'd wait on those too, as if you want a Pro phone like a 12 Pro, 12 Pro Max, those phones should be coming down as well after the 14s. And then those might be some really good values because they're premium builds, premium bodies, triple cameras, and they're going to be a lower price point than even like a current 12 in just about 6 months or so. So that's it for me on 3 iPhones to skip. Which iPhones would you skip? Do you disagree or do you agree? This is just for discussion here. Let me know down below if you have any of these, if you're triggered. Let's talk about it. Have a great day. Nick here. I will catch you all in the very next episode, and peace.